And what has it been like? Has it been as you would have expected?
So, there's multiple aspects to the job. There's certainly the work part, the attorney part. The work part, the attorney part, the administrative part is, pretty cut and dry. That's time management, which is easy enough. I've always been pretty efficient, getting work done pretty fast. A lot of good people work there, so that certainly makes my job easier. So that part's pretty easy. You get on top of that pretty quickly. Politics part, clearly that's had a life of its own. Our offices received, a lot of scrutiny, certainly. Everything we do has been looked at. I was talking to someone today. It's like you look scrutinized through a microscope. I was like, a microscope? You mean an electron microscope? So certainly there's the white noise associated with politics since we filed the case on Pacific Lumber Company, and certainly we're seeing the backlash from our the 215 guidelines. So, I knew early on that there was going to be some issues over the 215 guidelines. When I took office, when we put that in, I didn't realize at the time that we would have a case against Pacific Lumber Company. But then the case came, and we had a statute of limitations to go, so we had to file it. It would have been nice not having to take on that so early in my term. But, once we filed that, I knew I was waging a two-front war, and been pretty much the same ever since.
Well, it's incredible what has happened since.
Quick scrambling investigation to see just, what was going on. And then we realized there was a statute of limitations that we had to preserve, so we filed. Since then, we've, gotten an abundance of additional evidence. And the complaint, the amended complaint, you can amend the complaint all the way through trial. The amended complaint was designed to reflect some of that new information. Certainly, we have a much bigger picture of the sort of conduct they've been engaged in, not only in this instance, but before. And it is very similar to the conduct in our case, and it's admissible evidence under 1101B of the Evidence Code to show, that this was not a mistake. They've done this before. Concealed documents, try to intimidate government officials and whatnot. So, the complaint just deals with things like that.
Well, what's interesting to me is that, as you said, you knew that there would be some controversy. The controversy that has exploded after you filed the lawsuit is now a national story. And you have a corporation that's based in Texas that owns the Pacific Lumber Company. You've got the Pacific Lumber Company bringing out ads against you.
Well, I think they own Humboldt County, too.
And one of the things that occurs to me, and I know you can't go into too many details because after all you're bringing a lawsuit against these people, but one of the things that occurs to me is if you thought that you were in the right and and the district attorney brought charges against you, my guess would have been you go to court, you get your best lawyers, and you make your case. It's very interesting to think that the best answer is to recall the DA.
Right. Well, the fact of the matter is we took on a defendant that probably is wealthier than our entire county. And certainly they probably spend in a week what my annual budget is for the entire office. What they spend in legal fees. Their resources are limitless. It's as if the federal government, if they took on a lawsuit against a business that was so much wealthier than the federal government, they would have a task on their hands as well. The fact of the matter is, we've taken on a corporation that is immensely wealthy, has immense resources available to it, has immense political power. They're connected to all sorts of elected officials and appointed officials and administrative agents and on. So, of course, it's different because generally district attorneys don't have to take on defendants that are wealthier than them, or even the whole county.
Well, another interesting point for me is putting a recall effort on so early when, in my estimation, you can't really tell what your pattern is as a whole as a district attorney. I mean, what did the recall effort begin when you were, in your third or fourth month of office?
Right. Well, I mean, true, just from a straight statistical analysis, the sample group's too small to have a meaningful study.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, statistical jargon. But also, it's just not true. And I think that the data that's currently available would show it's not true. In January of this year, we filed 44 violent felonies, cases involving violent felonies. January of last year, 39 were filed. February of this year, we filed 31 cases involving violent felonies. February of last year, 21 were filed. That's almost, you're starting to get an idea of the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
March of last year, 35 cases involving violent felonies. This year, 38. Last April, 35 cases involving violent felonies. This year, 47. I don't have the numbers for last month or this month yet. I imagine the trend overall is the same, where based on the numbers we have overall, if they continue the way they're going, they've done the past the first 4 months of office, we're expecting a 20% increase overall in filing.